Book 2, Sutra 46. The next 3 sutras or verses are the only sutras in this whole book that actually speak about asana, yoga posture. So if you are a yoga teacher, you would have heard this sutra in Sanskrit. It reads, Sthira Sukham Asanam. Asana is a steady and comfortable posture. Sthira means steadiness and groundedness. Sukha means comfortable, easy, free. And a lot of Hatha Yoga teachers refer to Sthira and Sukham as Sthira being strength and Sukham being flexibility and mobility. In this context, asana is something that brings steadiness and comfort. Now, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali specifically speak about controlling and mastering your own mind. And so the asana that allows you to sit steady and comfortable is the seated meditation posture, cross-legged on the floor. And being able to sit steady and comfortable in a meditation posture allows you for the body to stop being a distraction so that you can go within and calm your mind. However, all the ancient sages and saints and yogis who tried to sit still in meditation found that they could not. They found that their hips were very tight. They carried tension in their spines, in their shoulder, in their neck. They had some digestive disturbances. And therefore, the entire system of Hatha Yoga was created, where they employed a bunch of cultural poses to help resolve any indigestion. For example, forward bending, Paschimottanasana, is designed to crush the stomach a little bit, stretch out the backs of the legs and the hips. If that wasn't enough, they invented much deeper poses like Mayurasana, the peacock pose, where you really crush your digestive system, clear out any toxins stuck in your system. If that didn't work, you had practices like Uddiyana Bandha, the solar plexus lock, and Nauli Kriya, the churning of your digestive tract, to really clear it out so that when your digestive system was quiet, it didn't disturb your mental capacity. The same way, we carry so much tension in our spines. So they invented poses to bend the spine forwards, bend it backwards, lateral bend, rotation, turn the body upside down to really find a biochemical process of releasing stress and tension held in the body so that when you sit down to meditate, the body is not a distraction. The physical body can get out of the way so that we can go within and understand and master our own minds. But how many times do we get so caught up in the physical body? How many times do we say the pose is the end result? Actually, the poses are just a means to an end. Sri Swami Satchidananda says, what is the use of standing on your head if you cannot stand on your own 2 feet first? And I take this. I remember the day I could stand on my head and the day that I thought that I could get into very complicated yoga asana. And I left that yoga class feeling very empowered, maybe a little bit inflated in my ego, like I had achieved something. And I stepped onto the streets of New York City and I lost my temper almost immediately after leaving the yoga studio. And I thought to myself, well, what was the point of me getting into that pose if I can't maintain my peace just by stepping out of the yoga studio? What is the whole point of that? And I was like, what is the point of practice? What is the point of practice? And that's when my yoga practice became a means to an end. I keep my body supple and fit so that I can sit down and go within and meditate. I follow the yogic diet. This was part of the Hatha Yoga system. The yogic diet is a sattvic diet. A sattvic diet is neither hyperactive or sludgy and lethargic. It is one that allows the least amount of prana to be wasted in the digestion process, while giving you a maximum benefit and surplus of prana left over to achieve self-realization. And that's why it's a very simple diet, free of meat, free of fish, free of toxins and stimulants, free of overly spiced, allowing this digestive system to go easy so that it doesn't give you any health issues. This is why in the yogic system, they say, don't do this, don't do that, don't drink coffee, don't drink wine. Again, your practice and your capacity and how fast you want to progress on the spiritual path is up to you. If you want to get enlightenment in this lifetime, yeah, you'll have to let go of certain behaviors. If you're not ready to let go, just keep putting in the good practices and the others can fall away gradually and naturally, examining your attachments and being willing to let go of certain things. And then naturally and gradually you will develop. Actually, the system of integral yoga was designed for people who live in the world. If you look at the basic Hatha 1 yoga class, it is a very simple practice of 12 postures. Actually, no. The whole practice of integral yoga is mantra and chanting in the beginning, an asana portion consisting of the same template of approximately 12 poses, with flexibility to add additional poses based on how your body is feeling that day, a long 10 to 15 minute yoga nidra practice, followed by 3 specific pranayama practices. Again, if you, depending on the day and your energy levels, you can increase it to 5 different pranayama practices, followed by meditation, followed by sending a mantra out to the world before ending. That is the methodology of integral yoga in the class. And there are people, we call them the old school integral yogis, who follow this same basic one cookie cutter class without veering from it, without variations, without adapting the practice, because that gives you everything you need to evolve spiritually while living in the world. It is a very manageable system that can be taught to kids, that can be practiced when you are in your 80s and 90s. And the thing is, when you go to the integral yoga ashram, as I grew up with in the days, the children were practicing alongside the grandparents, the same system. And if you look at the traditional yoga practice places in India, it would be in the temples, and sure enough, children would practice alongside grandparents and great-grandparents and everybody in between. It was multi-generational. That's why if you look at a lot of Indian yoga teachers, they grew up with this as part of just their family life. It wasn't this big ethereal thing. It was just something that was just part of family life. And a lot of them will say, yeah, I have recollections of doing yoga with my parents or with my grandparents, because it's just what they did. And this system, the whole system of Hatha Yoga, is a system designed to lead you towards self-realization. Where the system of Hatha Yoga is different from Ayurveda, Ayurveda is more about living a balanced, healthy, full life, right? It's almost like the art of the wisdom of living a good life. Whereas the system and the diet for Hatha Yoga, it's a little bit more austere because the goal of that is to transcend your mind and transcend your regular life in order to attain self-realization. But they're linked. You need to have a balanced body and a balanced mind first as you go into the system of Hatha Yoga. So they work together. And the third tripod is the tantric sciences, which is, again, a lot of it is mantra and working with energy. A lot of people think Tantra as something that is sexual and the Kama Sutra and all that fancy stuff, but it's not. It's based in fundamental rituals and mantras and disciplines designed to shift your energies to be in balance. So when you have all three of those sister sciences working together, it's a very solid tripod. So when you look at asana in the grand scheme of yoga and Ayurveda and Tantra, it is literally just the tip of the iceberg. So what is the purpose of practicing all these yoga poses? So that the body is strong, yet supple. The body is physically strong. You need physical strength. Again, yoga is not just about flexibility. Without strength, flexibility doesn't work. You become unstable in your joints. That's why you have sthira, steadiness, groundedness, strength, and sukha, suppleness, flexibility, and ease. And flexibility is relative. Again, like I mentioned, 1 in 4 people have the genetics to contort their bodies. The rest of us, the 75%, the majority of the population don't have these genetics to contort their bodies. So change the relationship you have with your asana practice to be more kind to your physical body, more loving, more accepting. Instead of trying harder, maybe, just maybe, you need to try softer. Which brings us to Sutra 47. By lessening the natural tendency for restlessness and by meditating on the infinite, posture is mastered. Our senses want to taste many things. Our minds want the glory of achieving certain things. Our ego likes to be recognized for achieving all these challenging things. And so as a result, we are always agitated. There is a natural restlessness of mind. Being agitated and being restless is a natural part of our human condition. Our minds were created rajasic, full of activity, full of agitation. However, through the practice of asana, the body becomes less restless. Think about the first time you've ever tried practicing tree pose. The first time, you're very wobbly. You have to put your foot down, try again, put your foot down, try again. And then as you develop strength and mastery over the pose, you can hold your leg up, but maybe your ankle is wobbling a little bit. And you're a little bit side to side, but you can manage to maintain your balance. But over time, it becomes very steady. And some days you feel like your internal unsteadiness is exactly that. It's a very subtle internal shaking. That, with practice, you're lessening the natural tendency towards restlessness. Slowly by slowly, you are less and less restless and more steady. When you have lessened that natural tendency towards restlessness, and by meditating on the infinite, posture is mastered. What does it mean by meditating on the infinite? Well, if you're not following your senses that are running here and there, and you put your mind on something that is infinite, a bigger picture. Have you ever looked up at the stars on a clear night? Sometimes it's hard to do in a place like Hong Kong, which is a big city. But if you ever go out into the countryside and look up at the stars, you start to feel that you're quite small in the grand scheme of things. There's so much in this universe that is working. Where are we in the grand scheme of things? By meditating on that infinite, suddenly our agitations, our problems, they seem so small. And this is where we become more mastered. Even by using your asana practice, knowing that your Hatha Yoga practice, your asana practice is the tip of this great iceberg. It is a means to an end. That is giving yourself bigger picture perspective. Any kinds of these things, meditating on the strength of a mountain, how tall and strong and infinite a mountain is, how vast the ocean is, how big the sky and the galaxies are. When you bring your mind to these infinite concepts, and you are lessening your natural tendency towards restlessness, you can master your posture. You can master your posture. Being able to do this is quite tricky. But with dedicated practice, it comes naturally in and of itself. And sometimes being able to stay still. One of the teachings that's actually in this book I'm going to read some of the commentary. If you make a commitment not to move your body for 1 hour and sit still, just by taking that vow and sticking to it, it creates a lot of mental discipline. Your body might be aching after 10 minutes. But if you really, really commit to the process of not moving your body, the mind will follow. One of the ancient yoga teachings says, if you can keep your body absolutely still for 3 hours, you have mastered your mind. In the height of my yoga practice, when I was so skinny and emaciated and practicing meditating 3 hours a day at different intervals, I decided to do this 2-hour series of meditation. The best I got was 2 hours of not moving a muscle. And the amount of self-realization that I received was incredible. Well, here's the good news. It's very possible, even for somebody like me. And here's the even better news. Since I became a mother, I've not had 2 hours to even do that. And my practice is so not what it used to be that I can't even sit still for more than half an hour without my leg falling asleep. But can I get back there? I know in the right place and the right circumstance, I can. I absolutely can. Do I have the discipline? Of course I have the discipline. Do I actually have the time? No, because my dharma is different now. I have other life responsibilities. But you can practice getting control of your mind in other ways. And this is where a lot of these practices come in. Make a vow to do something. The moment you take a vow and say, I am not going to eat chocolate for 40 days for Lent, what's going to happen? The next day, somebody's going to give you a beautiful chocolate cake. The world always works like that because the universe is there to test you. If you say, oh, why couldn't this person have given me cake yesterday? Never mind, I'm going to start my fast tomorrow. You've kind of given in to your senses. You've kind of given in to your senses. My older sister, she decided to do a wine-free, alcohol-free September. Yet for her birthday, we got her a wine fridge and everybody filled it up with all her favorite wines. And she's like, this is sober September, but she's sticking to her vow. How much self-discipline does she have? It's great. My birthday came and went, many celebrations came and went, and she, even though she was tempted, she's been sticking to her vow very diligently. So this is a practice for you. This is a good practice. Make a commitment to do something. Between now, try it for tomorrow. Make a vow. I am not going to touch chocolate between now and tomorrow. I am not going to drink a cup of coffee between now and tomorrow. I am not going to take a glass of wine or anything, whatever it might be. Whatever it might be. Try it for a day. Try it for a week. Challenge yourself and try it for a month. See what happens when you're presented with that temptation. How agitated is the mind? But what you can do is lessen your natural tendency towards restlessness. When you have a trigger, go take a Hatha class, go for a walk. Sometimes meditating is tricky because if you sit to meditate, all you're going to do is ruminate over and over and over about the thing that you want that you can't have. So be very careful with meditation. Sometimes you need to distract yourself first before you can sit down to meditate. Got it? And then your posture is mastered. So moving on to Sutra 48. Thereafter, one is undisturbed by the dualities. Just by mastering your posture alone, being able to take control over your physical body, you are undisturbed by the dualities of life. Now, if you have been practicing Hatha Yoga for a number of years, and you are still very disturbed by the ups and downs of life, shift your perspective. My asana practice is not the be-all and end-all. It is a means to a greater end. And now I have other practices that I can put into my daily life to enhance that. Because the goal is self-realization. The goal is peace, inner peace, everlasting inner peace, beyond dualities. So inner peace doesn't mean that you're happy all the time. Remember that. Inner peace means that you have equanimity of mind in good and in bad. Equanimity of mind is yoga. This is an essential teaching in the Bhagavad Gita. Good and bad, you can allow yourself to experience joyful emotions, and you can allow yourself to experience anger and sadness and grief. They don't control you. You have the mastery over that. It doesn't mean you stop being human, you stop feeling. Because the moment you feel totally detached and you stop feeling human and you stop caring, you enter that realm of indifference or spiritual bypassing. You are not in the thick of it. Life is messy and complicated. You are fully in the world, but you have the knowledge of being beyond that. One way I can describe experiencing inner peace amidst dualities was when my father passed away. I remember we were there in the funeral parlor, keeping vigil over his body. And the whole family was there. The way I was raised, death is something to be experienced by the whole family. We don't protect the children from it. So children as young as toddlers, as young as 4, 5, all the kids are there and exposed to losing somebody in the family and exposed to seeing the family sad and crying And it's very, very sad, but kids ask questions and it's very open, the discussion about it. And so that's one thing I was very respectful of and I love about being raised that way and having my children being exposed to that too. Because death becomes a part of life. I was grieving. And one of my biggest fears that caused me a lot of anxiety was actually my father passing away. And my little nephew, who was very young at the time, was sitting with me as we were watching over my dad's dead body. And we came into a conversation. And I was like, oh, so what were your favorite memories about Grandpa? And my nephew used to call my father Pops instead of, Pop, Pop, Pops. And so he's like, oh, I miss Grandpa. I'm always going to miss because we always used to tell each other really funny jokes. And I was like, oh, well, why don't you tell me one of your favorite jokes? And he said, what do you call a frozen grandpa? A popsicle. And then both of us kind of laughed and then we froze because obviously my dad is packed in dry ice at this point, as in the funeral parlor. And we're like, oh my God, that was so weird. And we both burst out laughing. And even though I was in this black hole of grief, and then I experienced something that was so freakishly, weirdly funny and odd, I could completely see my inner peace in grief and in humor. It was such a weird out-of-body experience that I had. And in that moment, I knew that no matter what, I was going to be okay. That is being undisturbed by duality. It doesn't mean that I don't miss my father. It doesn't mean that I didn't cry over his death. It doesn't mean that I didn't go through the human process of grieving. It also meant that I had the capacity to laugh and enjoy and joke. And I was also able to let both of those go, not hold on to the grief and victimize myself, but able to just wake up one morning and say, oh, I'm out of the black hole. I still miss my dad. My heart still twinges and stings, especially when my kids do something really funny that I know that he would have appreciated more than anybody in this world. But my heart sits at peace. My heart is completely at peace. I don't ask why he had to go. I am completely okay with it. That is what it means to be undisturbed by dualities. And I have moments where I sit in that peace all the time amidst my life. And then I have moments where I forget. But that's the practice. It's like laundry. Do it daily so that you one day will never forget.